What's up, guys? It's Monday. This is the fourth installment of Mischief Magus. And today I want to talk about exaltation. I think the last time I made a video was on Saturday, or at least the last one you saw. That one was about detriment and how planets can get messed up in the signs that they're opposite to. For example, Capricorn is where the moon is detrimented because it is the opposite of Cancer, the moon's home. And if you're very interested, we can go into that a little later, but I just kind of want to give you some stepping stones for the basics. I mean, remember, this is real bare bones stuff. I'm trying to get you guys into magic as quickly as I can, but every time I think about it, I'm thinking, oh, I have to talk about this, and this, and this, and this, and this. There's a lot, but I mean, most of it is, you don't have to know all of it, but it helps. Today I want to talk about the second most powerful form of essential dignity. Before, a couple of videos back, we talked about essential rulership, which is, for example, Mars in Scorpio, or Venus in Libra, or Saturn in Aquarius. Those are all essential rulerships. They rule those signs. Everybody likes to talk about signs in the zodiac. It's about the planets. Do not forget, the main players in traditional astrology are always the 7 planets. You can talk about the signs as much as you want. Oh my God, I'm such a Leo. Congratulations. But it's not. Don't make that mistake. Trust me. The planets. Today I want to go over the 7 exaltations of the planets. Now, this is going to be very helpful for you in the future because if you want to make talismans, which I hope you do because it's really fun, you should really look at the planets in your chart first to see if anything is in rulership or if it is in exaltation. Those are the 2 really awesome ones, and I highly recommend you work with those. Maybe we'll get into triplicity, term, and face, but I highly recommend rulership and exaltation. They're the strongest. I don't know of anyone who wants to work with the weakest essential dignity. You always want the bigger, better stuff, unless it's really bad, but usually that's not the case. Exaltation. We talked about essential rulerships a few videos back, and like I said, we're going to talk about exaltations now. I have my iPad too, so I'm going to read a few things, and I will tell you where the book comes from in case you are interested in purchasing it. So, remember, the 7 classical planets are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Only 7 of them. This dates back to antiquity before you were even considered a thought, along with myself. I mean, that was only almost 3 decades ago, but whatever. Okay, I want to start with the Sun. We'll do the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, because I just want to do it like that. I mean, we could do the Chaldean order and start with Saturn, but it doesn't really matter. So the exaltation of the Sun is Aries, and I'm going to go over exactly why this is in just a minute. So, but bear with me. The exaltation of the Sun is in Aries. Interestingly, it's a fire sign. Go figure. A lot of people think of Aries as it's the ram. I mean, what does a ram do? Well, besides chewing cud in the field, it charges at other rams, so it takes into action. Interestingly enough, it just works that way. From a novice standpoint, you could consider, the Sun is the source of life and it's starting things. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it too. So, I mean, it works, We'll go with the Moon next. The Moon is exalted in Taurus. One of my previous videos, I explained exactly why I think that is so. Just remember it for now. Sun in Aries, exaltation. Moon in Taurus, exaltation. Mercury is exalted in Virgo. It's not exalted anywhere else. And if you remember, we talked about how Virgo is also in rulership. Scratch that, reverse it. Mercury is also in rulership in Virgo. And, well, it conveniently happens that Mercury is also exalted in Virgo. So, double whammy. So if you're going to make a Mercury talisman, make it in Virgo, if you can. It's pretty hard because the Sun's always on its butt and it's just burning it to a crisp. Oh, I hate it so much. You'll see why. It'll make sense why I sound a little fanatic about it. If you can, you want to make a Mercury talisman, make it in Virgo. Preferably within the first 7 degrees. And I'll get to that later too. It's a lot of stuff. Bear with me. Venus's exaltation is in Pisces, not in Taurus or Libra. Those are the rulerships. Pisces is where Venus is exalted. Then we go to Mars next. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Now, I like this example because, I mean, this probably isn't why Mars is considered exalted in Capricorn, but think of it this way. Mars has a lot of energy. You know, Mars is the planet of energy, victory, fighting, and getting stuff done. And Capricorn is that, oh, I fucking hate this, I have to do this. It's a goatfish. You know, I think in one of the websites I read long ago, SkyScript, actually, very good resource. I recommend you read about it. So I think it talked something about, you know, it's one of the signs where it goes through a lot of difficulties because it's ruled by Saturn, and also because, you know, it's a lot of trials and tribulation stuff. It's an earth sign. You got to go through a bunch of shit. That's just what I'm remembering, what I take out of it. And being a sign of Saturn, it makes a lot of sense if you care to read about it. Like I said, this is a crash course. But anyway, combine Mars, tons of energy, with Capricorn, one of those working signs. You're going to get someone who's really hardworking and someone who probably can devote a lot of their energy toward their task. I think it's fascinating, and I think it works out, and it makes sense. So that's Mars's exaltation, Capricorn. Jupiter's exaltation is in Cancer, and interestingly enough, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, Jupiter exalted in Cancer. They're opposite. We will explain that in just a minute. Saturn's exaltation, oh, I love this one. Saturn's exaltation is in Libra, and this one I can tell you exactly right off the bat without having to look back at my iPad. So, come around, you know, fall time, when the sun goes in Libra, the sun weakens, and it is in fall in Libra. That means, you know, it's stopping being spring and summer, it's slowly becoming fall and winter, and the sun recedes in power and shrinks away. But then Saturn gets stronger. This is when the time of the seasons, and you can look around, this is very empirical evidence, you look around the time when the sun gets in Libra, it's probably what, oh god, I don't know, September or October or something like that. I don't know the complete dates, but September, October. It's not hot out most of the time. It's cool. Things are dying, they're decaying. You get the nice little autumn leaves and the wet season, and it's cool, and you can wear your stupid Uggs and your frappuccinos and whatnot, and it's cool. It's cool weather. This is considered the time when the cold and the dryness of death and the seasons that are getting cooler rather than getting hotter and moister, that's when they take over. Saturn is strong in Libra because the first half of the seasons, the sun rules. Because they're hot, and what? The sun's cool. No, the sun's very warm, and it promotes life. Saturn promotes death. I'm going to tell you that right now. Along with Mars, but mostly Saturn and Mars. But for this case, we're talking about Saturn, so it's Saturn. Come around this time, the ancients believed that Saturn grows strong in Libra because it's getting cooler, and it's growing time for him to become strong and for him to reign free and reap all the misery and car accidents of the snow and whatnot. Well, of course there weren't cars back then, but you know what I mean. It's getting colder, Saturn's preferred temperament. That's the idea behind Saturn in Libra being exalted. I know that's long-winded, but I mean, that's how I like to explain it. I have my iPad here. I want to read this excerpt from Ryan Butler. Look him up. Medieval Astrology Guide. Super good, really good, better than me. I have his book here, and I wanted to read a little bit about the exaltations and exactly why they're so. These things are not pulled out of people's asses, all right? These things have been passed down from, people to people. Just, they're very, very, very old. So I'll read it to you. Ptolemy explains that the sun has his exaltation in Aries because Aries marks the spring equinox, just like Saturn marks the whatever other equinox, where day and night are equal, but the daylight hours slowly begin to increase. Likewise, here it is, likewise, Saturn receives his exaltation in Libra as the sign that marks the autumnal equinox. That's the one. Can't remember the equinoxes. Where day and night are once again equal, but the nighttime hours are beginning to increase. This shows a stark contrast and opposition between the sun and Saturn as representatives of light and darkness, as well as warmth and coldness. Rhetorius concurs with this in his explanation. So the idea is that the sun is the source of all life, Saturn being the farthest and most superior planet, being the one with the biggest orbit around the sun and also the farthest away. They're kind of considered enemies. You know, the sun is heat and life. Saturn is cold, dryness, and excess of freezing, decay, and death. I know I get a little bit of pleasure. Saturn's cool. I mean, he's all right sometimes. Anyway, that's the idea between those planets. So here we continue. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and Ptolemy suggests this is because Jupiter signifies and stirs the fertile northern winds and reaches his highest northern point in Cancer. Mars's exaltation in Capricorn is explained in a similar manner. Mars is said to have a fiery nature, which stirs up the dry southern wind. This effect is intensified in Capricorn when Mars reaches his most southerly latitude. Rhetorius states that Jupiter is a significator of life and abundance, while Mars significates death. So these two planets are exalted in signs opposed to each other. Remember how I said that? I actually just read that before, so I just wanted to give you a little spoiler. Moving onward, the criteria for the assignments of Venus and Mercury focusing on a matching planetary temperament with seasonal quality. Venus is a temperately cool and actively warming, moist planet, and she is exalted in Pisces, as the sun's presence in this sign marks late winter, where spring's advent is bringing increasingly warmer weather. Now remember, the reason for this, and the reason why the planet and sign work together, Venus and Pisces, remember that Venus is the lesser benefic, just as Jupiter is the greater benefic. On the other side, there is Mars, the lesser malefic, and Saturn, the greater malefic. Lesser benefic, greater benefic, lesser malefic, greater malefic. Makes sense. So, Rhetorius suggests these two are opposed, as Mercury is the lord of the words, but Venus is the lord of sex and desire, and that rationality and desire are opposites. Another reason why Venus is in fall in Virgo, because Venus wants sex and Mercury is, kind of the opposite. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Finally, and this is the moon. The moon's exaltation in Taurus is based upon the lunar phases, says Ptolemy. If the moon is in Taurus while the sun is in Aries, his exaltation, then the new moon has only just recently occurred and the waxing phase begins, where she symbolically grows in power. Rhetorius offers something more of a mystical explanation, stating that the moon governs the general fate and that one that fate exalts, none reduces, and the one that makes fate humble, none is able to exalt. Which is essentially an explanation on why the moon does not have a partner who is exalted in her opposite sign in Scorpio, but doesn't explain why the moon should be exalted in Taurus. My thing is that I think it makes sense if the moon is the creator and generator of all things. Taurus works with crops and all this, and it's a cow. Granted, it probably works with agriculture. I would assume that the planet that rules generation of things should do well in a sign that revolves around agriculture. Now remember, this is not my work. I just want to let you know. I am reading from a book by Ryan Butler. He is the Medieval Astrology Guide. You can look him up. He's really cool and he's very good at what he does. I like magic, so I use this stuff, and I like to read back because I think the basics are some of the best things you can work with. He's far more advanced than that, but this is just for people like you and I who are interested in getting started with astrology. However, magic is a whole nother field, and I still think that this is worthwhile to consider because this is the easiest and quickest way to learn about it. So that being said, those are the exaltations, and while I'm at it, I should probably consider talking about fall because I don't think I've done that yet. I don't know where the source is for that, and I'm sure it's in the book, but I'm not going to reach down, take a few minutes, and look, so I'll just tell you right off the bat. And I can't give you an example why. But let's go with just Saturn. Let's do the Chaldean order again. So Saturn is in fall in Aries, which is the opposite of Libra. Jupiter is fallen in Capricorn, which is the opposite of his exaltation, which is in Cancer. Mars's fall is in Cancer, which is the opposite of his exaltation, which is Capricorn. The sun's fall is in Libra, which is hard because people that are born in whatever, October, whatever that time period is, they're going to have the sun falling in Libra. That doesn't mean you're a broken person. I always have to reiterate this because I know that people are going to get frustrated. I was too, but it doesn't mean that. So work with it. Moving on, you have Venus, who falls in Virgo. Yay me! So I have that, and if anyone else, I mean, it's not a huge problem, but sometimes it can be. Mercury falls in Pisces, the exact opposite of his exaltation in Virgo. Interestingly enough, Mercury is detrimented and fallen in Pisces. It's like, you know, for as great as it is in Virgo, it's not going to behave equally as bad, except the opposite in Pisces. Finally, the moon is in fall in Scorpio. I believe this is because her exaltation is in Taurus, and the opposite of Taurus, literally right across the zodiac, is Scorpio. I like to think of this as the moon moves around a lot. Scorpio is a fixed sign, and it's also ruled by a malefic, Mars. It's a water sign, though. You'd think that it might work out, but I think it's not as... I like to think of it this way, and I don't know if this is correct, but I like to think of the sign Cancer as like the ocean. Cultivates things, it ebbs and flows, creates algae and all this other stuff that you find in the ocean. Fish, everything. It's cultivated. In Scorpio, it's like a marsh. It's like a stinking pond full of, I mean, sure, there's life there, but it's like, oh, you stick your hand in the marsh and you just pull out 500 billion leeches and they're all like 5 feet long. And you're like, okay, it's time to cut my hand off. I mean, that's kind of what I think of like moon in Scorpio is. It produces stuff, but it's like, ugh. Or like that sink where you just have left tons and tons of dirty dishes in. Ugh. Anyway, those are the ideas. So this is the video on exaltation and fall. I hope you like it, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to brainstorm a few ideas. The Thema Mundi is definitely on the list of things to do. I was going to make another video tonight, but I have to consider it because I got to look back at it and read it again so it's easily digestible. Again, the material that I covered is not from my book. It is from Ryan Butler. Look him up. He's really awesome. That's his book, so I just took it from that. I just want to give that out there because I did not write it, and I am not going to take credit, and I'm not going to get sued for it. So forget that. But seriously, the information still applies. I still think it's very useful, and it stands pretty strong up there with some of the ancients' work. I mean, and I also think it's worthwhile getting into. All right, guys, I'm going to try and conjure up another video, and yeah, hope you enjoyed this, and just remember, this stuff does make sense after a while. I'm giving you the building blocks for when you want to work with magic. Now, this stuff may seem a little boring at first, and I was getting really excited about doing some actual magical videos, but I don't want you to run in blindly, all right? I want you to know at least what you need to know in order to make sense of what you're doing. So look at your charts, see if you can post anything for yourself about if you have any good planets in rulership, in positive houses, and in exaltations. We will go over houses as well, but for now, I want to cover the essential dignities and detriments, so you know what to look for and what to avoid. And then after that, we'll go into the houses, because some houses are good to do it in, some houses are bad. Also, the planets, where they are, and what signs they rule. That's going to be also really important. So we'll cover that in the next video, or the video after that, or the video after that. Anyway, let's see if I can come up with another one. All right, take care, guys.